Good morning, class. Today we are going to discuss about how to write a good composition, means a good essay. So, by following 8 steps to write a good composition, we can be able to write really well. First of all, to begin with, writing is not simply about correction. Writing is also about composing. That's why we call this a composition. Unfortunately, most teachers and students work on the correction part of the language but have no idea how to teach or learn composing. The result is that you can get at best a piece of writing with good English, but overall it is poor and messy. This article will greatly help teachers and students on the task. So, producing good and neat compositions will turn into an easy and quick task. Doubted? Perhaps no doubt. Keep reading. When writing a composition, most people just sit and start writing, hoping that ideas will flow in the right direction and trusting that they won't need to make many changes and readjustments. Well, that's certainly a lot of hope and trust, and even if you manage to write it in one go without having to rewrite parts or start it all again, that way is the easiest way to get a messy and poor composition. And it makes it really difficult to come out with an impeccable or even good piece of writing to impress. But showing how good a writer you can be gets incredibly easier if you follow our 8 steps to write a good composition or essay. The secret for that is just one plan. First, you have to know what topic you are going to write about. In most situations, you will already know this when you sit down to write, and then you must start making an outline. Outline means here opening sentence means topic plus approach, ideas connected to the opening sentence. Next, it details about those ideas. Fourth is closing sentence. And when you are happy with the outline, it comes the time to do the writing, and here you should follow these other 4 steps. Fifth is write a title. 6. Organize ideas into paragraphs. 7. Write the composition. And 8. Correct your composition. So, students, in the first part of this article, we learnt how to plan and organize your composition into an outline as the best way to guarantee a neat piece of writing and as a good time saver. On the second part, we will learn how to turn that outline into a composition. So, after explaining steps 1 to 4, here you will learn steps 5 to 8. Let's begin. Fifth is title. The most important thing to remember is that a title is not a sentence. It is only one or several words expressing in a very general way the topic, not usually the approach. Center the title on the top line of the paper. It means on the piece of paper in the copy you have to write the title in the center. Next is capitalize the first and last words of the title as well as the most important words, nouns, adjectives, verbs and adverbs. Don't capitalize grammatical words, means prepositions, connectors, articles, etc., except if they start or finish the sentence or they go after a colon. If a quotation appears in the title, use a capital for the first word in the quotation. Next is don't write a sentence, means subject plus verb plus complements as a title, and don't finish the title with a stop, means full stop. Don't underline a title. Example of a good title: Life in a Village. This is the good example of a title. Examples of bad titles means Life in a Village, full stop. It means no final stop, means village needs capitalization because it is a noun and also the last word. I prefer to live in a village. This is another title, bad title. No final stop. Prefer, live, and village must be capitalized. This is a sentence with subject, verb, and a complement. So it is wrong for a title. Third bad example is a village. The best place to live. A needs capitalization because it begins the title, also the because it goes after colon, and titles cannot be underlined. Okay. So sixth point is organize ideas into paragraphs. This is the most important part. A composition must be organized in different paragraphs in formal writing for publication, books, magazines, newspapers, etc. Every paragraph must be indented. The first line starts 3 to 5 spaces more to the right than the rest of the lines. In other cases, it is more common to simply use a double space to separate the paragraph from the next. Leave one or two empty lines in between, so you don't need indentation, but paragraphs are also well defined, separated, as you can see in this article. The paragraphs are used to group ideas into units and must obtain more than one sentence. The first paragraph begins with the opening sentence and it is the introduction, the first contact we have with the topic, so we usually put there the most relevant, shocking, or interesting information to catch the reader's attention or to make them understand the situation. Next is the last paragraph, ends with the closing sentence and it is the conclusion depending on what kind of composition we are writing. We use the last paragraph to explain the result of the event, the end of the action, the conclusion of our reasoning, the climax of the story, or personal opinion, etc. In case of doubt, giving your personal opinion on the topic is always an easy way to finish a composition. It means that if you don't know how to conclude the essay, so you can give your personal opinion on the basis of the whole topic. Further, we have to choose from the points we defined in step number 2 which ideas are best for the first paragraph and which are good for the last paragraph. The rest of the points will go in one or several paragraphs in the middle, in the body of the composition. Every paragraph contains one or several points, but all of them must be talking about the same general idea, and that idea must be a bit, means a very different from the general ideas of the other paragraphs. That is what makes a paragraph a unit. Example is here. We will continue using the same example we proposed for step number 1 to 4 in our previous article. Topic is life in a village, so approach better than cities. In the first paragraph we start with the opening sentence and then we can talk about the bad things about living in a city. That way the good things about a village will later sound even better. Another paragraph may talk about people and why they make life there better. They are nice, they know you, care about you, and help you. Another paragraph may talk about life there being more natural, clean air, no pollution, contact with nature, beauty of the landscape, more animals. And another paragraph may talk about the way of life, means everything cheaper, healthy, entertainments, more exercise. The last paragraph is going to end with the closing sentence. The other sentences in this paragraph may reinforce the closing sentence, or it may be one or several points that will help us accept the idea in the closing sentence better. For instance, if the closing sentence is a look to the future, I have decided to move to a village, then the previous sentences in that paragraph may explain that in the last months I have been getting more and more tired of cities. Seventh point is write the composition. Now that you have got your opening sentence, your closing sentence, your points, and the organization of your points into paragraphs, it is time to finally write the composition. Notice that for most people, this step is the only one they actually make, but for a good writer, this step is only the unfolding of the whole structure already constructed, so it becomes easy, quick, and solidly grounded. It is very important to use connectors. Connectors means here conjunctions to relate ideas, although nevertheless that's why so, because after words in the first place, on the one hand, unfortunately, etc. But always remember that the English language doesn't like long complicated sentences. So as a general rule, use compound sentences but short and with only two or three elements, main clause plus subordinate or coordinate clause. Example of a nice sentence is cities are getting more and more aggressive, that's why I am thinking of moving to a village. So this is the good example of a sentence. Example of a clumsy sentence means I don't like cities because after all the changes in modern societies they are getting more and more aggressive and polluted, as everybody can see. Although I know that on the other hand life in a city offers more opportunities for some things such as jobs and entertainments, but the good things don't compensate for the bad things. So that's why I am thinking of moving to a village. Since life in a village is much better, natural and healthy than life in a city, especially big cities which are still growing with more and more new people coming to live there. A student of English may be impressed by the second example. They might think that with sentences like that you can prove that your level of English is much better than with the first example. But remember that when we are writing a composition, style is very important, not just grammar and correction. Besides, the closing sentence in that example is not the right one for the topic we are writing about. A native reader would feel that the second sentence is really too long, too complicated, too difficult to understand, and too horrible. English likes its sentences short and clean. If you want to express all the ideas before the second example, break it down into different sentences, shorter and more simple. For example, like this. Now we are going to make the sentence very simple. Everybody can see that in modern societies, cities are getting more and more aggressive and polluted. It is true that in big cities the supply of jobs and entertainment is much bigger. Nevertheless, the good things don't compensate for the bad things. I really believe life in a village is much better, natural and healthy than life in a city. That's why I am thinking of moving to one. So this is very simple one. So now we express the same ideas but using simpler structures. Connectors underlined here are showing the relationship between the different ideas, and they are a must, means obligatory in your compositions. But using lots of connectors will make the text look clumsy and overloaded. In the last example, we only used two connectors for the conclusion paragraph. Using four connectors, there would probably be too much. So try to balance your need to show how much you know with the need to show how good a writer you are. Point number 8, correct your composition. You need to leave time at the end to read your composition carefully, one or several times. Several means here usually two times is enough. More can end up confusing you. Remember that the mistakes you don't correct will be corrected by the evaluator, so try to see your mistakes before the evaluator sees them. Read your composition as if you were the evaluator reading someone else's composition. Important thing is planning your composition is the best way to get a fine result. It is very difficult to write a good composition without planning it first, and the planning will also save you time. As a general rule, use about 15% of the time working on the planning, 75% writing your composition, and 10% revising and making corrections. But you might need to increase or reduce those percentages. So practice and see how much time you need for it. If you have 30 minutes to write a composition for an exam, 5 minutes for the planning would be the rule, but maybe you need a bit more or less time for it. Put these instructions into practice and see what is best for you. Also save 5 minutes for the corrections at the end. But if you think that not doing the planning is going to save you time, you will find out that a good composition written in 20 minutes is much better than a bad composition written in 40 minutes. So make the outline. Further advice is, dear students, don't use contractions if it is a very formal piece of writing, but do use them a lot if it is something informal, like a letter to a friend, etc. Try to make your writing tidy. If you are messy and have enough time, you can write it in rough and then make a fair copy of it. If it is handwritten, try to have a readable handwriting. If there is a limit of words, you must write respect that limit. Usually a variation of 10% above or below that limit is acceptable. But ask your teacher. If there is a limit of time, check the time frequently and make sure your hand in your composition before the time is over. So if there is a limit of words, you don't need to be counting your words every 2 minutes. Write a few lines in English, count the words and find out how many words per line is your average. If you get 10 words per line, then for a composition of 120 words, you need to write 12 lines. Dot 12 lines and you will see how long your writing must be without the need of wasting time counting and checking constantly. In the rare case that your teacher requires precision in the number of words, you can bother to count the exact number of words only when you are near the end of your 12 lines. But ask him or her how precise they want you to be with the count. It means, suppose that if you have counted 10 words, so just minus 2 words, only 8 words, just an average. Okay, then multiply with the lines. In this way, you are able to get correctly the total number of words in one page. So students, hopefully by using all these 8 steps, you will be able to compose a good essay or write a good composition. Thank you, students.